Okay, this is going to be a DIY GoPro hat mount. Typically, if you've watched my videos up until this point, my GoPro is on my chest, so you see a lot of my hands fighting a fish, you see a lot of my reel, but you don't really see a lot of the fish, and I think it's going to be better to have a hat mount. Now, my GoPro kit for my Hero 10 came with a clip that clips right here on the bill of the hat, but it had all the weight forward on the bill, which tipped the hat forward on my head. It was very uncomfortable. But I've done a lot of research online, aka YouTube, and what I found was they took this GoPro mount right here that comes with it. It's a two-piece system that clips in. And instead of having it here at the edge of the hat, they did it back up here with the base facing that direction toward your head, and that should keep a lot of the weight this way instead of forward this way. Now, you can also mount it right here. I've seen people do this. The only problem is if you screw that in, you're gonna have screws poking through the hat and into your head. So if you did mount it on the actual hat itself, you'd have to have some type of a foam or backing plate right here to keep it from being uncomfortable on your head. So I don't have that. That seems like a little bit more work. So instead of mounting it here, I'm gonna try to mount it right here. So here's what you're gonna need based on what I saw. I've got some screws. I think these are called panhead screws. See how it's got a little bit of an angle to the head? That is so that you can recess it down into the plastic, because you're gonna have to do that because this base, this top piece actually slides in the base. So you can't have anything sticking up right here. It's got to be smooth and flat. So we're going to take a drill bit and recess a hole a little bit down so that this screw will fit down that hole and be flush, as you're going to see a little bit later. So I've got the screws, I've got the nuts. I basically wanted them just long enough so that they'll go through the mount and through the bill of the cat, but not much further, because I didn't want a lot of screw facing down like that might be in my field of view. I went ahead and bought stainless steel. It's not that much more expensive. I do fish salt water, and maybe that'll help out. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, start making our holes, and just walk you through the process and see if it helps you out. Okay, I've got my 4 holes drilled here, and I simply used a drill bit that I felt like was about the same diameter as the screw itself, and I drilled my holes. All right, as you can see from the side, if my camera will focus, see how that screw does not lay flush against that plastic? That's going to be a problem when you go to slide in the top piece of this clip. It's not going to clear it. Well, that's why now that we've got the screw holes made, now we're going to take a little bit of a bigger drill bit and do what's called a countersink to create a little bit of a deeper hole, a wider, deeper hole for that screw head to go into. Not all the way through the plastic. You can't go all the way through to the other side because you want to keep that same small diameter, but just a little bit deeper of a hole right here that screw head can sink down into and be flush. So you can see the difference in the drill bit head sizes. This is the drill bit I used to screw the hole for the actual screw to go through, and this is the drill bit I used to create the countersink hole. All right, so you can see there's the opening there in the middle, and then see how I've walled out a little bit of an indentation? That's for the screw head to fit into so it's flush. Now you can see how I went ahead and put them in, and I put the nuts on the back end. So here's how you can test to see if you made that countersink hole big enough before you try to put the whole attachment on the hat, is you can go ahead and put the nuts on and then try to slide this top piece in and see if it clears these heads. So we're going to test that right now. I'm going to put this final screw in and let's see if it works. All right, so I've finger tightened these nuts onto the bottom, and the clip won't quite go in, so it's binding up on some of them screw heads there. So that means I need to take my bigger drill bit and just deepen that countersink hole a little bit, and then this will work out. Just be careful with that countersink hole, because if you go too far and drill all the way through the clip, you've kind of pretty much ruined it at that point. So just slowly start going a little deeper and deeper until those screw heads are able to get flush without drilling all the way through this plastic clip. All right, there we go. Everything cleared, clip went in, we've got the nuts on. Now the clip was still a little bit tight going in there, but I know that once I mount this on the hat and I put a screwdriver on these and I tighten the nuts with an actual wrench, or a socket, they're gonna pull even tighter, and that'll suck them screw heads down even tighter, and I know it'll clear just fine. So it cleared pretty good without doing that, but I know once I tighten it down with some tools, it'll clear just fine. So now we mount it to the hat. I've switched back to the smaller drill bit, the one that is roughly the same diameter as the screw, because we're going to be using that now to screw the holes in the cap. And so see, I've taken everything out. You've got the smaller screw hole, you've got the countersink hole, and I haven't taken the adhesive backing off of this yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Put it on the cap right snug up to the back side, close to where your head's gonna be, and then I'm gonna use the drill to go ahead and pre-drill these holes. Actually, all I really need to do is pre-drill one here and here on the opposite corner, and then put the screws in, and that'll hold it snug for me to easily drill the other two. So there you see, I've actually drilled them in two opposite corners and went ahead and mounted it. And now I can easily drill this hole and this hole because this thing is solid and in place. And boy, if you look on the other side at those nuts, there is barely any clearance. I tell you what, if I'd have got any shorter of a screw, I'd have been in trouble, but that's gonna work out just perfect. And this hat has a line right there, and you can see it lines up with the line on the mount. So that is going to be perfect. I'm going to finish screwing these two holes, or drilling these two holes out, and then putting our screws in. Well, there you have it. GoPro attached to the hat. It is better than being right here on the tip edge, but still, it's a little bit of weight still on the head, but probably that's just going to take some getting used to. But there it is. That was actually very easy to install, and now hopefully when I'm fishing, you're going to see actually the action out in front, and you're not going to see my hands and all that kind of stuff. Like if I raise my hands up eye level, then I can see them in the screen right here. So maybe this with the mirror is a good test. So I know if I hold my hands up this high, like eye level, then I'm going to be blocking the view of what's going on. But as long as my hands are lower, then I shouldn't be blocking the view at all. And that'll work out just good. And then whenever I'm looking down, like if I'm grabbing something, this should be just about right. So there you go, hat GoPro installation.